What is up, everybody? This is Lyle, No Hippie Trucking and Transportation, and I am out here chilling outside the Millennium Building at the Prime Inc. Terminal in Springfield, Missouri. A while back on my page, I posted a poll asking what people thought the biggest problems were at Prime Inc., and they had a few things to choose from. And then I said, if you have other issues, leave it in the comment section below. So we're going to kind of get back to replying to some of those. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to knock it out in this video or if it's going to take another video after this, because I don't want to make it too long. And one of the people I wanted to circle back around to was Trevor 1990. And one of his concerns was being a lease trainer in the flatbed division. And I don't know if the division matters as much as to what he's saying, but having to pay for the student out of your revenue was one of the things that he had an issue with. And also having to pay for some of the students' screw ups. So I'm going to break that part down, and he has a very long comment, so I'm going to try to get through these on this. Now, personally, I never had an issue with paying for a student out of the truck's revenue. When I was training, as a matter of fact, my other driver has a trainee on her truck right now, so that's how that's getting paid. I never really had much of an issue with that. The second part of this, though, where paying for student screw-ups, that I think might be a way for Prime to sweeten up the pot a little bit. And some of you guys that don't know, if you're a lease operator with Prime and you have a student, and let's say they tear up the truck or tear up the trailer, those deductibles get paid by the lease operator. So anything that happens to the truck is $1,000 deductible. Things that happen with the trailer are $500 deductibles. And then if the truck is down in the shop because of that, now you're also sitting not getting paid and having to pay that student's pay. So I can kind of see that a little bit on there. So maybe I probably agree with the, if Prime handles the deductibles for student accidents, stuff like that, and then maybe pays for the student while the truck is down because of that accident, I could maybe agree with that a little bit. He also went on to talk about Prime says that they've added 50 to 70 new customers in the flatbed division, and he says he's not seeing that yet. I'm not in flatbed, so I can't speak on that. He's also speaking about lack of dedicated routes for flatbed, and I think dedicated, as far as Prime in general, and this is my response to the dedicated thing, I think dedicated routes at Prime in general are a lot less than what you see at other places. And I'm not exactly sure why. I think you probably would be able to retain more people if you had more dedicated routes. But I look at companies like Swift, and it seems like they have a lot of dedicated lanes. So I do think that would help with retention. What else does he say? So those are basically his points. So I'm going to tend to agree on most of those. The first one, as far as paying the student, or Prime paying the student directly, I mean, it would be nice, but I'm not sure if that is anything that I have an issue with. So let's go to the next one. Sorry, this is taking me so long, but my phone just shut off, so I need to scroll back down to where I thought I was going to be at. Fred F., I'm not sure if I covered this one or not, but outdated technology and comm data being unreliable. Also mandate about putting locks on empties. As far as the outdated technology, the Qualcomm, I definitely agree with that. And I just find it hard to believe, just forget outside of, forget Prime. I'm surprised that that company, I mean, Qualcomm's a big company. Obviously, it's not just trucking related type stuff, but I can't believe that this division within Qualcomm is still able to be profitable and that more companies have not left. I think the changeover, like, I don't think that Prime thinks that Qualcomm is that great of a system. I just think that they think that the pain of switching over from that is what's keeping them from moving out of that system, because yes, the Qualcomm is horrible as far as comm data goes. I have never seen the comm data system going down all the time for maintenance or this or that. Don't fuel up, but comm data is going to be down. That's another thing that I just don't get. Again, to me, it sounds like outdated systems. And a lot of times when companies get comfortable in certain areas, I mentioned when I was in the mortgage company, there was a mortgaging process, or a mortgage processing and compliance system that most of the mortgage, not most, I'd say 35-40% of mortgage companies use this one system. It was called Calyx Point, and they got comfortable enough to where they stopped like trying to improve things, and they soon became obsolete, because unlike the trucking industry, the mortgage industry will not sit around and let you just half-ass shit and still get their business from them. Let's see. Tim Travels, go check him out. I think PSD process needs to be revamped to not include actual loads. Now, I did my training. It really depends on what the philosophy is going to be. I did my training at the Salt Lake City terminal. That was all pad training. Didn't do any loads and really didn't drive all that much. Now, to me, I think it served its purpose in that I think that phase is intended to get your CDL, or CDLs for you overachievers out there. But it obviously did take me a little bit more time to get comfortable driving once I was in that TNT portion of my training. So I can see it both ways, as far as doing loads and actually being on the truck, kind of getting your feet wet a little bit, dipping your toe in the pool. But I do see, I'd like to see what the numbers were as far as the success rate for people just in getting their CDL, of people that just stayed on a training pad and focused on that, as opposed to people that went out over the road. All right, my midlife trucking life says Prime's leadership team is not diversified on their website. Just scroll through their leadership page. What do you see? So basically saying he doesn't feel that the leadership team is diversified enough. And I did go to the priming page and look through that myself, and it did kind of stand out a little bit. And that could be for a number of different reasons, and a lot of that may not be malicious. Some of it could be who's actually applying for those leadership jobs, and a lot of the people that have been in those leadership jobs have been at the company a while. So at some point, I think the closest person that would be on that route that's been with the company long enough and has done that would be Dennis Davis at Prime. And I think if I started seeing people jump that, then maybe I would think about it a little bit more. But when I first saw this comment, I thought back to when I was in the mortgage business, and I just did a video with the owner of my company from when I was in the mortgage business, and I looked at when I got hired and when I left, and I was the first black person that got hired at that company, but it wasn't out of maliciousness. It was just most of their hiring was organic. It wasn't like they put ads in the paper or anything like that. It was just like, if you knew somebody that worked there, all that kind of stuff. Basically, I met that owner through a bank or through my banking connections, and that's how I got on. But then as I became a manager, then we started trying to ramp things up. So, you know, so then it was me that was the first person to hire another black person, the first person to hire a gay person, the first person to hire, first person to hire a Mexican person or Hispanic, whatever. And that wasn't because they didn't want to do it. It was just at the point that we went out and started looking for people, those were the people that started applying for the job. So it wasn't out of maliciousness or anything like that. So I don't necessarily think that is the case here. I think that, in looking through it, it's kind of one of those you work your way up type businesses here. And, maybe if you were going to say on the lower end level, fleet management level, things like that, maybe. I'm not exactly sure how diversified that is, but I think that the way to get up in this business is through working here a long time and going through several positions and things like that. So I don't think it's malicious, but it's always good to see things diversified. And boy, these training classes that are coming in here, they're definitely diversified. Trust me on that. Let's see. Tony Williams said he left TNT due to a poor instructor and issues with road rage and throwing and screaming and acting a fool. I've heard that before. Like I've mentioned in several videos, I had to get off of my first trainer's truck, and it wasn't road rage issues or anything like that. I think that, I did talk to my first student yesterday after I posted that video. He called and said, it was fun and thanked me for everything, and I had a good time with him. And I think there's one thing about my both of my students, and is that I think that's gonna be a separate video, but I can see that happening, and I have heard that before. I think I'm gonna get to what I was just on the top of my head in a separate video. Christopher Wamhoff had said that he's waiting to finish his TNT right now, so he might be done because I'm replying to things a while back. He's concerned about the truck shortage and how long it's going to take to start hitting the ground and making revenue. So that's not really a question. That second part wasn't, what's wrong with Prime. So I'm just going to answer the first thing. The truck shortage, the truck shortage seems to be loosening up a little bit. I've seen a bunch of trucks come in here, so I do think that isn't as big of a problem as it was when I first posted this video. Tony Williams got back on the TNT trainers. TNT needs better trainers. Some of those guys should not be allowed to train. I think that's in any business, any trainer. You're always going to have some trainers that are not as good as others and some that are downright bad. And I think that a lot of times what you hear, because I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people are extremely happy with their trainers. I just think that a lot of people are more apt to talk about their bad trainer than their good trainer. Scotty B says the training department has so much black and white red tape that they require a seasoned driver to go out with the trainer, which is absurd to complete half the miles an experienced driver is required to do. I think I know what the point is. So if you come to Prime and you've either driven in the past, but it's been a while, or maybe you've had less than 5 or 6 months of experience, you might have to go out with the trainer. And in some of these cases, you might have to complete more miles, I think, than what an average trainee would have to do. And in that case, I do agree that if you've already driven a while, then maybe your miles should be less. Communication at Prime between sales, fleet managers, and driver could be better. I'm going to agree with that, and I'm going to definitely agree with that because of what I just went through with my other truck out there in California. As I mentioned in a video that I had just done, I was about to post a video that I did not finish and post because I was so pissed off about the communication that was going on. And sometimes it's not just the lack of communication, it's the lack of empathy that sometimes goes along with that. And I'm going to agree with that. You know, I think this, here's what I think, okay? And I'm going to finish up the rest of these on a different video, because I think that a lot of the people that come into Prime, and let's just talk fleet managers, I'm not sure where the sales department people come from or things like that, but I think sometimes their life experience might be a little bit short. And I mean that sometimes they're coming straight out of college with no other business experience, or maybe they've came from another trucking company, things like that. And I think that there's a difference between being educated and being smart. And I think that you can have a lot of people that are smart enough or educated enough to do the job, but not smart enough to empathize with people with what they're going through. And you know, that little stupid shit they used to always say, you know, people don't care how much you know, or care about how much you know, they care about how much you, or whatever that dumbass saying was. People don't care about how much you know, they care about how much you care, or something like that. I think that goes a long way. And I had a video that I'd posted where I was having these problems with sales, and then this fleet manager that I think, you know, they always want to send truck drivers through retraining, you know what I'm saying? I haven't had to do it, but if you start messing up a bunch of shit, then they want you to go get retrained. And I think sometimes that could happen at different levels within the Inc. But I was stuck out at this shipper. This fleet manager, who wasn't my fleet manager, kept telling me, just get there, they'll take you. And I'm saying, listen, I've looked at, now I'm gonna just start being fucking smarter, but I've looked at, you know, I've Googled it, they're closed on weekends, you know, whatever. And I'm getting an argument over something that I already knew, but I'm dumb enough to show up there on a Friday night. I get blocked in the entrance, and I have a fleet manager that's not really concerned about what my current situation is, and a sales department that possibly isn't giving him the information anyway, but he really didn't need to give me the information. All he had to say is, hey Lyle, I put you in a bad situation, that's messed up, I apologize. And once you do that, I'm down for you. I don't need you to fix my problem. I need you to help me understand, or, you know, I need to know that you understand that I'm in this situation. So anyway, the next day, I believe this lady's name is Jennifer. I want to see her when I stop in here to talk to my fleet manager on Monday. But the next day I get this fleet manager, I think her name was Jennifer, and she totally de-escalated the situation. Not that I was like going crazy or anything like that, but I just explained to her everything that I was going through and everything like that, and she empathized with what I was going through and took care of me. And if there's one thing I would give Prime advice on, it's less about the job and more about the social interaction. And I've said this in videos before, my job, or what I feel is important to me, and what is the way I look at this, is by taking this job, trucking, from a transactional business to a personal business, meaning I'm gonna have personal relationships with my fleet manager, my payroll, my logs advisor, anybody I come in contact with, drivers that I know, things like that. And as soon as you take that personal aspect out of it and it just becomes transactional is when you have a problem. So I think that if I was to be training, if I was to head up, and trust me, I could do the fucking job. It's not like, I understand, that it's a hard job. I could do that job if I wanted to do that job. Would I get hired for that job? Maybe not. But what I would be doing is training fleet managers more on how they interact with the driver than actually what the loads are, or whatever any of that aspect of the job is. You know what I'm saying? I know it's more than that, but once you have a driver or anybody in life that cares about you or cares about your well-being, the money and all that stuff isn't as big of a concern. But if I have a fleet manager that I don't like, or we're butting heads, money's going to be the only thing I can bounce back to. You know what I'm saying? At that point, money is the only thing. And when money is the only thing, you got a problem. And that's in any business. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Anyway, I appreciate you guys stopping by. No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. I'm going to clean up the rest of these comments on another video. I'm not sure when that video will be, but we also want to talk about somebody calling me stupid. I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to leave that one alone, because then I'm going to come off sounding like an asshole. But anyway, I appreciate you guys stopping by. No Hippie Trucking and Transportation. As always, comment, subscribe, and I'm out.